Welcome to Pavinar's Webinars for the Pavement Community. My name is Andrew Bram, and today we're going to talk about writing a background section. In a journal publication, a background section is a combination of an introduction and a literature review. And in my mind, this provides a foundation for your objectives of your research, the experimental matrix of your research, and your data collection and data analysis. Now, you'll notice that this has a bit of overlap with some other Pavinars, including how to perform a literature review and writing a journal article, but I do feel like having a Pavinar on the background section is of particular importance because this really is the first thing that a lot of people read as they're going through your papers, and setting up why you're doing what you're doing is very important. And you'll see that I have combination with little asterisks, and that's because I think there's some benefits to combining your introduction and your literature review into a background section. I think the largest benefit is it streamlines your papers. So instead of having two discrete sections, you have one section, a background section, instead of an introduction and a literature review. I think it also introduces this concept of weaving. So instead of just simply having a laundry list of papers listed in your literature review, this allows you to have a very high-level introduction, but it provides resources for further reading for those who want more than what you've talked about in your paper. And it really de-emphasizes what I consider weak literature reviews. So I mentioned just before, I don't think a literature review should be a laundry list of papers. You shouldn't say, this author did this, and this is what they found. Next paragraph. Another author did this, and this is what they found. Next paragraph. A third author did this, and this is what they found. I do not think that's an effective literature review. You don't want to just rehash what other people have found. What you want to do is you want to analyze your existing knowledge. And I've thought quite a bit about this, and I recommend, if you haven't, to watch the Bloom's Taxonomy Pavinar, because that talks about going into the analysis of concepts. I think another benefit to a background section is it really answers the why and the what of your work. So why is your study important? Why should people even pay any attention to what you're doing? Your background section should fully justify this. It should talk about what is your motivation. Now, I say that you don't want a laundry list of other research, but you do need to justify what you're doing with what other researchers have found. You need to identify what the gaps and open areas are in the body of knowledge in whatever area you're looking at, and you need to provide what is the theoretical foundation of your research. Now, this will naturally transition into your objectives, and I really see two options for your objectives. If you want to go back through some of my publications, sometimes I have them in my background section, sometimes I have them in their own discrete section. So objectives can be placed in either the last paragraph of the background section, or you can make a discrete section called objectives after your background section. But the background is what is setting up your objectives. Now, you can also, I apologize for the spelling error, you can also use a hypothesis. So objective, hypothesis, in my mind, potato, potato. Some of my colleagues disagree with me on that, but at the end of the day, it's what is the core question that you have moving forward. Now, there are three ways in my mind to approach the background, and I'm a very visual person. So you can look at a funnel, you can look at a pyramid, or you can look at my favorite, personally, a donut. So let's go over each of these separately on how you can potentially approach your background. So we're talking about a funnel. You start broad. You start at a very high level, and you can think of this as what is the undergraduate level content. Now, you don't want to be too broad, but you do want to make sure that people kind of get corralled into the area of research that you're doing, the general area, And usually an undergraduate class is a pretty good level to start that funnel, or the undergraduate level topic, knowledge of topic. And what this does is it frames your specific topic. So people start reading your background section, they know what you're going to be talking about. They know what area in general you're looking at. And this is usually less than one paragraph. You do not want to spend a whole lot of time here. But then you narrow down and you start screening. So I think of this as taking 3 to 4 steps through literature. And through these 3 to 4 steps or themes in the figure on the right, you can hone in on your specific topic. So you start very broad, undergraduate level, then you have to take 3 to 4 steps. Naturally, one is each about a paragraph long, and you hone in on your specific topic, and you go from the fundamentals of your topic to the gap of knowledge of your topic. And along the way, you should make sure you cite seminal works. So in all of our areas, there are certain papers or certain reports that have a very high level of citations. And you may think, everyone knows about that paper. I don't need to cite it. I personally disagree. I think seminal works are seminal for a reason. And you want to make sure that the reader knows that you're aware of these very, very high impact, high level works. And you also want to avoid ambiguity. Don't try and be tricky. Don't try and be clever. Just stay simple and clear. Pretend you're talking to a relative and walking them through what your research is about. This is all we're doing. You don't need to prove yourself to anyone reading your paper. Just stay simple and clear. That will make your paper a lot more, in your background section, a lot more effective. And by the end, you want to justify your objectives and you want to justify your experimental matrix. So the funnel is one way to look at it. Now we can toss this on its head and think about a pyramid. In a pyramid, you want to lay a foundation. And when you're laying your foundation, you establish your fundamental concepts. And what this does is it provides stability for your specific topic. And then as you kind of continue on through your background section, you're decreasing your granularity. You're going from coarse graded to fine graded. And you want to start bringing different perspectives together. And this is going from some sort of base knowledge and comprehension of a topic to a synthesis. And this is the second time I've talked about my Bloom's Taxonomy Pavinar. I'm not just trying to sell my Bloom's Taxonomy Pavinar, although I personally think it's a pretty good one. But Bloom's Taxonomy does the same thing. It's a pyramid. And it starts at the bottom with knowledge and comprehensive. As you move up, you go to synthesis and analysis. And this is exactly what we're doing with this format of a background section. We're starting with the fundamentals. We're decreasing our granularity, getting more and more specific. And we're getting to synthesizing the existing literature. And you want to be careful. You don't want to wander from your research problem. There are so many interesting things to study. So many interesting things. But you have done your work. You have produced your objectives, your experimental matrix, you've collected your data, and you've analyzed it. And you really need to stick to that in your background section. Be laser focused on that. Now, if you want, you can have a future research section at the end of the paper, and then you can go off on all sorts of rabbit trails. But in your background section, try not to wander from your research problem. And really, this does have flavors of an inverted funnel, the slide that we were just on. I'd see this, though, as kind of building concepts versus screening ideas. So kind of, similar endpoints, but the way you think about it, the process you go through is quite a bit different. And then finally, third, the donut approach. This is where you think of your research, your new research, as a whole, and it's surrounded by existing research, which is the dough, and this makes your donut. And when you're building your donut, you want to identify 4 to 5 similar areas, and you want to somehow link those areas together. And while doing this, of course, you want to cite your key studies as seminal research, but you want to establish your whole because you want to take concepts from similar areas. It may not be directly in the material you're looking at. I personally work with asphalt materials, but there are ideas from other areas, other materials. For example, we use a lot from metals in our fracture analysis. We use a lot from plastics and polymers in our asphalt binder analysis. So there's a bunch of different ways you can go from. But what you really want to do at the end of the day is say, hey, here's all this knowledge. And it surrounds this new area that I believe has merit to be studied. And that's your open area of knowledge. That is the hole in the center of the dough that makes the donut. And again, all three of these, the funnel, the pyramid, and the donut, the objective of this background section is to justify the objectives of your research, to justify your experimental matrix, to justify the data you collect, and to justify your data analysis. That is the only thing the background section is responsible for. So as a recap, it's my opinion that a background section can be a combination of an introduction and a literature review. It should not just be a laundry list or a rehash of existing research findings. It should justify your objectives, your experimental matrix, your data collection, your data analysis. And if you like pictures, I like pictures. If you like donuts, I love donuts. You can think of a background section as either a funnel, a pyramid, or a donut. So I really appreciate you spending some time with me today, and I hope you have a wonderful day.